What's up, my dudes? No Man's Sky Origins review. Okay, so let me get in here and just give you the little cliff notes of this video before I go dive super deep into all the different aspects of it. Let me just give you my overall sort of opinion on it right away. So, first of all, let me just say, every single thing that they have updated and changed with this Origins update was desperately needed. It was desperately needed in the game. It was desperately needed in the game 4 years ago, okay? So there is not a single thing that they have added or changed in this Origins update that was like a bad thing. You know what I mean? Every single thing they put into it was a good improvement. It was just basically just adding more to the game. That's pretty much all it was, right? So I just want to get that across. I absolutely love all this different stuff that they put in with this Origins update. But the biggest point I want to make in this video is they can't stop here, okay? That's my biggest thing I'm trying to say. They can't just stop here with this and just be like, oh, well, this is our big variation update and we're never going to mess with the variation ever again. You know, that was our variation update. Now we can move on to something else. They do not need to do that, okay? Because even though they added a lot of cool things like tornadoes, fires, volcanoes, lightning, more variation to the plants, more kind of creature types, infestations, robotic creatures, right? They added a lot of cool shit like that. There still is a lot of repetitiveness to the procedural generation of the game. Even with having this Origins update, there still is a lot of very repetitive, you know, over and over, same kind of creature models that you're seeing on the planets, a lot of very similar plants and rocks and biomes. Have they improved with it with the Origins update? Yes, they have. But I still don't think they're quite to that, you know, end-all, be-all variation update to No Man's Sky. I mean, hell, we still don't have rivers, actually like running rivers. We still don't have waterfalls. We still don't have like full-blown, you know, desert dune planets from what I can see. We still don't have all 100% water planets. We still don't really have like super jungly dense forest planets. They're starting to get better with some of those things, but they're still not quite to that level. We still don't have ice planets. We still don't have giant, you know, megalodon-sized underwater creatures, you know, 200 foot down in the water, abyssal, you know, Subnautica level underwater gameplay. We don't have any of that yet. So there is still a lot of different stuff they can do with the variation of this game, okay? I don't want people to get this idea that it's just like, oh, well, now we got the Origins variation update. Okay, so now we just don't need any more variation of the game. It's just like, dog, we still ain't even close, to be honest. I mean, it's awesome what they've added, but to be completely honest with you, like, I kind of thought it was going to be a little more. I kind of thought it was going to, you know, create a lot of crazy differences with the creature designs and a lot of different stuff. And it's like they've added more things like creatures and, you know, the beetle flying around creature and some of the really alienistic looking creatures and stuff. It's like they've added on some more pre-made kind of things. You know, the giant sandworm that comes out of the ground, that's a completely pre-made model. That's not really a procedurally generated giant creature, you know. That's what I want to see. I want to see when the shit gets to the point where it's like it's like the size of that sandworm, but it's, you know, endless different variations of that, right? So it can be like a megalodon shark creature that's the same size of that sandworm, and instead of coming up out of the ground, it's coming up out of the oceans, right? Or have that same giant, you know, sandworm style size creature, but it's like a dragon size, or a dragon, you know, style model, and it's like flying around in space. It's like a cool ass like space dragon that can, you know, blow flames out at you when you're flying around in space, and it tries to chase you down and swallow your ship, right? There's like so many more things like that that would make the game just endlessly more exciting and fun to go explore new places and new worlds. So I think some people might be under the impression that with this Origins update, oh, now you're just like never going to run into the same thing. There's like all these endless possibilities, and it's just like it's making, what No Man's Sky was supposed to be from the beginning and all this crap that people get that idea. People have been getting that idea every single update they've came out with, right? That's how you can point out basically a fake No Man's Sky fan. They've been saying that all along. Like with the Foundation update, they said, oh my God, No Man's Sky is finally what it's supposed to be. Then they said that with the next update, right? No Man's Sky next. Oh my God, No Man's Sky is finally what it's supposed to be. Then they say that again with this Origins update. Oh my God, No Man's Sky is finally... they've been saying it the whole time. Therefore, completely dismantling their entire argument or, opinions, because they don't really understand when the game is really what it was supposed to be and when it's not, right? So my whole point, though, is like, you're still going to run into some very, very similar planets that you would have ran into on day one in the game. You're still going to run into some very repetitive, very similar creature models, that puffer fish under the water, the kind of squid-looking creature that's under the water, that little groundhog-sized creature on the ground, the, antelope-sized creature on the ground. There's like multiple... The crab creature at the beginning was like insanely repetitive in the caves specifically. Now it's kind of weird. It's like you don't see a whole lot of creatures in the caves. You don't really see like the monkeys swimming in the water and the, kind of cow creatures swimming in the water. It's kind of bizarre. They've changed and warped their procedural generation where it won't really create some of the cool shit you used to see, but now it's creating some different shit you used to never see. So it's kind of this, I don't know. I just think they still need to update this procedural generation variation of the game, like for literally another 4 or 5 years. They need to dedicate the time. They need to open up the procedural generation restrictions, loosen that up a little bit to where this shit can just create endless amounts of possibilities. That's really, I feel like, what they need to do, right? This planet right here in particular is probably one of the best planets for me to display the difference in the game after No Man's Sky Origins, right? So this is going to show you a lot of the terrain changes that they've made, a lot of the different plant sizes and variation and, all this kind of stuff that they've done. This is one of the most quote-unquote like different planets I've seen in the game so far that doesn't look like one of the planets that would have been in the game before, So I think the big thing about this particular update, this is, I think, the first really big update that we've ever had that was mainly based around the variation of the game. That was like the whole point of this update. This is the first one we've ever really had like that before. So it has created this interesting thing of, it's almost like you've got to explore the universe a little bit. You got to go to some planets. You got to, do some exploration in the game before you even really see all of the improvements that have come with this Origins update. It's not like the previous ones where, oh, you just have this new thing that pops up that says, come over here and build a base. Or, oh, this new thing that pops up that starts you on a story mission. It's not really like that with this update. It's like you got to go out and experience this update. You got to go out and go to some planets and find some different stuff, And what that creates is a system of variables, okay? So you may start off on a planet in this No Man's Sky Origins update, and it may look exactly like one of the planets that you've already seen in the game before the Origins update. That is definitely possible. That happened to me. Okay, and you may go to multiple different planets, and they don't really look all that much different than what you've already seen before this Origins update. You got to keep looking, okay, because it is in here. And I think one of the things that's kind of caused this is, damn, look at this planet though, dog. Oh my God, we are in a super heat. Dude, I can't, the weather effects they have changed on here, holy crap. I mean, just look at it. Would you look at it? Would you just look at it? I can barely even see where the hell I'm going. Let me get this in third person here so you can actually somewhat tell what the hell is going on. Let me get to my ship because, yeah, I can't even see here. But that's my biggest thing I would say. Like, especially if you're a longtime No Man's Sky fan and you've seen how repetitive the game has been over the years with the procedural generation and the variation of the creatures and the biomes and the, everything else in the game, I think you need to spend a little time with this one and try to go to some planets, and you will start to see the differences that they've made with this Origins update, okay? So, and I think that's what it is. That's what's going to sort of change your opinion on whether or not you think this Origins update was a good update or not. It depends on how many planets you've been to see how much of the different stuff they've changed with the variation, because that's what the entire update is about, right? So you've got to really play it. You got to go to some planets. You got to go through it. So either way, because you see these crazy different terrain type vibes going on. I mean, before this Origins update, there ain't no way in hell you'd have mountains like this in the game. This is like way more extreme than what you would have ever seen in this game previously. You would have never seen plants this tall in the game, and all these plants. Look at the experience this shit gives you look at this. It feels like you're actually down in a world. Feels like you're actually down on a planet whenever they create these crazy tall, not so repetitive terrain designs. They create these crazy tall alien plants and rocks. Makes you feel like you're actually more down in an alien jungle. I think that's one of the biggest problems they've had with No Man's Sky this whole time. They don't create enough separation between the space and the planet, right? They don't create enough separation between that, so you don't feel like you've went from space and got off your ship down on a planet and now you're down on a planet, right? But with this particular planet right here, it does feel like that. I mean, it just gives you a whole different feeling to the game when they have this kind of variation to the planet design. Okay? It's big. It's big. I mean, having mountains like that, I don't know, it creates such a cool exploration feeling of like, oh, what's over there? I don't know. Man, that looks kind of cool over there. Can I even climb to the top of that mountain? What's over that mountain? What's at the top of that mountain? Can I create a racetrack around this crazy mountain, right? See, the whole trick to this game is they have to, with updating this game, they've got to start expanding the way that procedural generation creates these planets, right? They've got to start loosening up those restrictions, right? It's almost like they made it too procedural, where it was making the planets way too predictable, way too Earth-like, way too, you just start to be able to predict everything that's on every planet. But with this Origins update, it's like they've opened that procedural generation spectrum up a little bit to where it can create these really cool, crazy tall mountains, crazy tall, plants and rocks and cool shit like that. So I just wanted to show this off in particular because this is probably the best planet I've been to thus far to show that particular thing off, right? But what I do want to say in this video, the sort of negative side to... not really negative, because I think everything they've improved on with this Origins update was desperately needed in this game. Desperately. Like, I think it's everything they've done with this update is all really desperately great things that they've needed to improve on. They've added tornadoes, volcano planets, lightning. They've added more animation to the creatures. They've added the huge, creature that goes underground. They've got, creatures that can scoot across the ground. They've got burrowing creatures. They've got, they've improved upon that entire variation aspect of the game, right? That's what this whole update is all about. So it's starting to at least give you a little more of that feeling of like, okay, and I've noticed it specifically when you land on one of those planets that was not already in the game, one of these, origin new planets, it really can give you a completely different experience on those particular planets than any of the planets did before, right? But what I do want to say is when you land on some of those planets that kind of seem like they have the same sort of terrain designs like what the planets had beforehand, you can definitely still run into some very, very repetitive, similar things that you've been running into for years in this game, okay? It's not like, okay, they just fixed the variation of the game and they never need to improve on that ever again. They just totally fixed the variation. They finally came out with a variations update. It's just totally fixed. They never need to worry about it ever again. There's so much variation in the game now. It's infinite. It's unlimited. There's so many different creature models. There's so many different plants and rocks and biomes. They just never have to do anything ever again. It's not like that. It's not to that extent, okay? That is what I want to get across in this video. It is certainly not to that extent. Yes, it's awesome. They've added swamp biomes. They've added, these like weird like mechanical creatures that look like super, alien made. They've got a whole different creature class of aliens. They've got where, the actual NPCs can land on the planets now. They've got a lot of different stuff. They improved on some of the rendering and distance type stuff, which was desperately needed. All that stuff plays into feeling like you're actually down on a planet, right? Okay, and I think this might be one of those infestation planets. Okay, let's see about this right here. So they have a whole nother class of planets called infestation planets. So I think this is like you took one of the standard like planet designs and biomes in the game and then you just overran it with some sort of alien, plant life form and it infested the entire planet. So they've added a whole nother side to that, kind of like the exotic biomes, but just like another stage of that, right? So that's really cool. Gives you a whole nother vibe. Look how alien that shit looks. That looks very cool. But you can still certainly run into some very, very repetitive creature models. And even there was a couple planets I went to in this Origins update that I swear to God I could not tell the difference in the planet at all. Like from what some of the planets I've seen before the Origins update, right? There was literally some of the planets I went to looked almost identical, literally basically identical to the biome creatures and everything to some of the planets that I had seen before. So it's not like a foolproof update in a sense. You know what I mean? It's not like it's changed every planet. It's not like it's just made every planet super varied and amazing. It's kind of like it's just made what I would call like every 1 in 10 planet something a little bit different, something you might not necessarily had seen in the game before, which is great, but point of this video, point of everything I'm trying to say here is they've got to stay on this. They've not just totally fixed every sort of variation issue they've had in the game and they just never need to worry about it ever again. It's not like that. We need to have a No Man's Sky Origins update number 2, Origins update number 3, Origins 4, 5, and 6. They need to do literally another 10 updates to the variation of the game before I'm even going to remotely think that they've added enough variation to this game. I'm just saying, they need to add another 10 updates like that to the game before it's like, okay, now you're actually, somewhere with it. But it's all in that trick of them trying to add things that aren't so, a lot of times they add pre-made things like the giant snake creature that comes out of the ground. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's a totally pre-made model. So yeah, you might go see that snake creature coming out of the ground for the first time and it's a really cool experience, but if there's no other kind of creatures that can do that, and there's no other super huge colossal creatures in the game, there's no like megalodons that can come flying out of the water just like that crazy snake creature did out of the ground, then it's like, how cool really is it if there's not crazy, humongous creatures like that giant mega worm creature out in space that can swallow your spaceship? Then what's really the point? You've got to have procedural variation with every single thing that you add to the game, or it's kind of pointless in the game. Right? So a lot of the abyssal horrors and a lot of these different things that they've added that are very like pre-made things, they're not really randomly, procedurally generated in any kind of way. Those things get very repetitive and very stagnant over time. So, but yeah, so either way, I mean, just having that kind of crazy different, plant life that you've never seen before adds so much to the planet. This looks like a pretty standard terrain planet that you would have had pre-Origins, but it looks like it's just been, kind of infestation on the planet. So kind of giving it a whole different vibe here, but that's what I'm saying. Like some of you guys that have it in your head that, they've just fixed everything with the variation. They've improved everything on that. They never need to improve the variation ever again. This was our one variation update. Now they can move on to something else. All you dudes thinking that, you need to rethink your shit, right? Listen to what I'm saying right here. Yeah, they might have added, volcano planets and swamp planets and tornadoes, but where's the waterfalls? Where's the rivers? Where's the ice planets? Where's the literal canopy jungle Amazon forest planets with anacondas swimming through the water and, piranhas and shit? Like, where's the megalodon-sized underwater creatures? I still don't think they're in the game. I still don't. Right? Where's the all-water planets that has no land on them at all? Where are those at? Where's those crazy deep oceans that you literally can't see to the bottom in them? In these crazy underwater abyssal alien colonies? Where's the procedurally generated NPCs? Right? Could you imagine if you had procedurally generated NPCs? I'm not just talking about you have one race of an NPC and it just changes the face a little bit on everyone. I'm talking about literally fully procedurally generated races alien races in the game and NPCs. Totally like procedurally generated. So you could come across an entirely different race in the game that nobody's ever seen before on a particular planet or a particular solar system, right? That's the whole thing. Like, this is just what I call the start. That's what I would call this Origins update. This is just the start to actually putting the true procedural generation variation to the game that what the game was supposed to have from the very beginning. This is just the start to that. I still don't think they're where they need to be. Okay, I really don't. Yeah, we've just happened to fly down to two different planets here that are something different, but I'm telling you, I've already went to like 15, 20 different planets that looked basically no different than a planet would have looked beforehand, right? It's not like they've just totally revamped the creature, models. It's not, I mean, I'm kind of in the middle on this, Origins update. I kind of thought it was going to be a little more like variation improvements than it turned out to be. It's a decent amount, but I still was kind of thinking it was going to be a little bit more. And I get it, there's still a lot of things for me to see on here that I haven't seen yet, but okay, I don't think I went to this planet over here. Let's try to go to this one. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at on it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, I'm don't get me wrong. I'm certainly glad they're finally, after 4 years, putting some attention to the core issue of the game, the exploration side of the game, the repetitive, super over and over same exact shit that you're seeing on the planets, procedural, the bad side to procedural generation. Finally, they seem to be starting to improve on that and open up what their procedural generation can actually create. So that's a really good thing, but it's not just made every planet better, right? It's not just made every creature model better. It's only improved on some planets. That's the big thing to get across here, right? For instance, we land down on this planet right here. I'm sure any of you guys that's been to more than 50 planets in No Man's Sky, you have probably seen this exact plant model in the game before. And this one too, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. You have probably seen those plant models before. Those are the typical super repetitive on these, acid rain style planets. This particular six-legged, wolf creature right here, you guys have probably seen that, 10, 15, 20 times in the game before. I've seen that creature, I'm not even shitting you, like 5, 6, 7 times today on 5, 6, 7 different planets. Yeah, it might be slightly varied. Like the one I saw before might not have had a unicorn spike on its nose, but it was basically the same exact creature model. You see what I'm saying? It's not like it really has that full-blown creature model variation to it yet. It still just really doesn't quite have that yet. You guys have probably seen all kinds of different creatures that have looked like this in the game beforehand. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You've probably seen this exact same creature model in the game multiple times. So this is one of those planets in particular right here that is not all that much different than what you would have seen pre the Origins update. The terrain doesn't look all that much different. Literally none of these creatures look any different than anything I've already seen in the game at all. So it basically is just a normal planet that you would have already seen before the Origins update. And you will run into many of these planets. Many. Okay? That's what I'm saying. So, but that's what I'm getting at, though. There ain't no way in hell you can sit here and tell me they're just totally done updating the variation when we still don't have rivers, waterfalls, ice, actual caves that are really interesting to go into, and like humongous, giant Yeti creatures that can come flying, come running out of the cave at you. Like, there's just so many more. And I hope this, again, this creature right here, I'm sure you boys, that's the one that you see flying around in the sky on fucking so many planets out there. This one right here, same little... damn, you just got to know how the creature models are in this game, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There ain't nothing new to any of the creatures on this planet right here, or the plants at all. Absolutely nothing new. Or the terrain, for that matter. There really is nothing new on this planet right here than what you would have seen before the Origins update. So this is kind of showing, at the beginning of this video, I was showing you basically a planet that is really properly showing the changes, the crazy mountainous terrain, crazy tall plants, crazy different creatures. On that first planet I went to in this video, it did have that snake creature that comes out of the ground. It just didn't at that time when I was recording the video. But as far as this planet goes, there ain't nothing different about this planet at all. It ain't even slightly different. When I say that is the exact same plant models and rock models and creature models and terrain, I literally mean that is the exact same models. Like the exact same. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say in this video is, yeah, this Origins update is awesome. They've added some more structural things that can be on the planets. They've added some like giant alien... it's kind of like a ruin on steroids. It's like a lot bigger structural things that you can go discover. They've added some cool shit like that. They've added falling asteroids that can fall down on the planet like shooting stars. They've added firestorms that can actually, flare up fires on the planet and shit. So they've certainly, they're going in the right direction now, but they got to keep going. We ain't done yet, No Man's Sky. We ain't done yet, Hello Games. You got to keep going.